Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm going to be taking a look at Nigel Bach's latest entry in the Bad Ben franchise. It's the 9th film. Coming out tomorrow, it's Bad Ben, Benign. Bad Ben, Benign ultimately brings Tom Riley back to his home full of the strange and otherworldly. But when he returns to the house, everything seems to have been changed. His doors are now locked and he's unable to get in, forcing him to break in. There's evidence of cats and dogs when he normally had no pets, and while he's attempting to figure it all out, demons and other creatures that he's never seen before lurk in the dark, watching and waiting for their moment to pounce. I love how consistent Nigel has been over the years when releasing these films, oftentimes twice a year, because not only has he been an indie filmmaker all this time, doing all of this mostly on his own, he's always able to let some creative juices flow and change things up just enough so that each film differs from one another. And the same goes for Benign. Also, this film takes place in real time. So from the moment that it starts to the moment that it ends, the idea is that there's no cuts. There's just a switch in which camera is being focused on. And for the most part, it does get away with that idea. Though I would also say that when movies do this, it sometimes limits what you can do with the writing. And some things in this movie definitely seem to meander a bit, and there's repetition and a whole heck of a lot of self-narration from our hero Tom Riley. He kind of just narrates everything that he's doing. That's what bugged me. He's like, well, I gotta go check this out. Well, I gotta do this. Well, I gotta walk around here. I can see you, man. I can see what you're doing. You don't have to narrate what you're doing constantly. So at times it felt like the audience is sometimes being talked down to, as if they can't figure out what's happening for themselves. Also, I feel like he's starting to broaden his horizons in terms of some CGI and green screen work that happened throughout the film. It's not the most impressive that I've ever seen, of course, but it is a step up visually from where the series has been in the past. There's also a bit more jump scares in the film than I've ever really seen from Bad Ben. This is one of his more ambitious projects, at least from a technical perspective, and fans of the series will enjoy it. However, it's not my favorite Bad Ben film, as I feel like it was safer in direction than it has ever really been in the past. The 7th movie took place entirely out of Nigel's car, as he did this Uber job, and it was great, very unique. The 8th film was a desktop horror situation done in times of COVID, where all of his fans sent in videos that he compiled and made a movie together with. Very, very technically impressive stuff going on with the editing in that movie. The 9th film just kind of brings it back to the house for what feels like another typical haunting situation. So back to basics. Back to what you would have seen in some of the much earlier Bad Ben films. And for some, that may be great, but if you take a look at the direction the series has been heading thus far, I think it's a bit of a dip in creativity. Now, I love the end, though. I think it's the best ending of any Bad Ben film up to this point, but a lot of the film before that meanders quite a bit. There's also some audio level issues in the film, as Tom Riley runs into a brand new camera, and whenever it switches from the house security camera footage to the new camera stuff, you can kind of tell the level of audio significantly is worse. That might just be because I was given a screener, and sometimes stuff like that is unfinished and incomplete, but every time they used that camera, it was much quieter for me. As for everything else, I would just say that the pacing of the film wasn't as great as some of the most recent Bad Ben films, since it seems to have an idea that it's going for, but until the end of the movie, it doesn't know what to do until it gets there. Again, that's meandering. All in all, if you're a fan of the series, this review is going to be a bit of a moot point since you're going to watch it anyway, and you'll most likely enjoy it. Nigel has some seriously loyal fans, and I love that about the series. But if you're unfamiliar with the series, I would definitely recommend going back and watching them all while keeping an open mind, because this isn't so much horror as it is horror comedy, and a very tongue-in-cheek type of horror comedy at that. For me, it was a bit of an acquired taste, you can say, but I got there. And you can too. Just don't start with this movie, work yourself up to it. That's the best that I can say about it. Let's go ahead and break down my final score for a second. From a technical, unbiased perspective, obviously none of these movies have been crazily impressive in terms of what it was doing behind the scenes, right? They're easily nitpicked because of that. But that's often not really the point. I said in this review that this is one of his most ambitious films when it comes down to stuff going on behind the scenes, but that doesn't automatically make the stuff going on behind the scenes technically great. It's more of an A for effort type of situation because that green screen work is obvious. The CGI stuff or animated stuff, it's obvious. The level in sound between the cameras for me was obvious. So even though he's getting his name out there and making leaps and bounds with the technical aspects, it's not quite there yet. This score is 62%. As for how I personally felt about it, or my bias score, that's a little bit higher because, I find myself to be, in general, a fan of the series. And even though it's not my favorite of the bunch, and find it mostly to be kind of a safe decision film, I did like it. So this score is 74%, meaning that when we combine the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 68%. 68 out of 100 possible stars, or a C+ letter grade on my letter grading spreadsheet. Once again, guys, if you've seen this movie, let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And Nigel, if you're watching, as long as you make these movies, I'll be there to watch, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan at heart. And as for YouTube, guys, you know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come up with my next review. And until then, peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He